Okay, now we should.
So, Cecilia,
Yep.
I just tried to turn on my camera and I got a message saying you cannot start your video because your host has stopped it.
Oh,
And there's 8 participants here,
yeah, there's 8.
6 attendees. Oh, Mike's there. Okay.
So I'm sorry, Lisa, what was it again?
When I shared my video, when I was turning on my video, it says you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Okay, hold on.
I don't know what that means.
Well,
So when you look under the attendees, because I don't know the boards, everybody on the board's names, are they there? Do you see?
well, some of them are. I just got an email from one of them saying I need the link. So hold on, I'm gonna. White town. Hold on. Bear with me, I'm almost there.
I also sent this meeting,
Okay,
text message saying that we shouldn't start the recording until everybody's on.
that's actually not true. I checked with Maddie.
Okay.
So now I have to figure out how to get back there. So, um. I'm trying to figure out is that, gallery?
What are you trying to do?
Well, my view gallery. Full screen, maybe?
We're still waiting for the condo people to come. Those are all attendees.
Hello, board member Simeon? Okay.
It's
How do I
not
unmute? Unmute.
Okay, you got me.
There we go. Board member Simeon, hello.
Yes, I think I'm on the wrong spot.
I'm sorry.
I think I am on the wrong spot. I'm not on the right spot.
Oh, I see.
You see what I mean?
Yes.
Because I might be on the panelist.
Yes, I just added you to that list.
Okay,
So let me know if that doesn't work.
okay. Oh, okay. As a panelist, right?
Yes.
Okay. Because I'm a member.
Yes.
Okay.
So you should be a panelist. Now let me know if it's not working.
Okay, because I don't have all my options.
Oh,
Okay, you see what I mean?
yes.
Okay, joint as a panelist. Yes, I'm on the right one now. Thank you.
Oh, very good.
All right.
Hello, thank you. Sorry about that. I'm unable to start my video, but I'm assuming is that okay for this evening or
I think that should be fine.
just making sure? Okay, all right. I heard the video is recording, so are we ready to call the meet? Wait, do we have? Yes, we have quorum. Actually, no, we're waiting for.
Waiting for Kate.
Yes,
I'm-
okay. No,
I'm
Kate,
here.
Oh,
I'm here.
I thought board member champion.
Yeah, I apologize. I have a new computer and I thought it was in my calendar, but then the Zoom link wasn't there. So I apologize for being late.
Oh, no, it wasn't just there were some difficulties. I think I was in a member attendee selection for a second, so you're right on time. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
you,
Thanks.
Cecilia. Thank you for everything.
Uh,
So is board member champion joining or?
she didn't say that she didn't respond, but she didn't say that she wouldn't be here. I can reach out to her.
Yeah, are they, could we check to see if maybe they're where I was in a spot in the attendee spot, possibly?
She's not here.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't see her. Hold on. No, I'm not seeing her showing up.
Okay, but we have quorum without.
Right.
Okay,
I
so
will
just,
send her another email. Is it possible she wasn't aware? I mean, I had sent her all of the information that I had sent the rest of the board.
that's a great question. I'm with you. I'm unsure if she received everything we received, then like I said, the only thing I could think of is I don't know if it was just maybe the technical difficulty, but either way, we're all set with quorum with just the three of us, correct? I just want to confirm that.
Okay.
Okay, if we can move on and we have quorum. Okay, great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Homer. All right, so call the meeting, all right, call this meeting to order. All right, so welcome everyone to the City of Somerville Condominium Review Board meeting, Monday, September 25th of 2023. All right, precedent to Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022. This meeting at the Condominium Review Board will be conducted via remote participation. We will post an audio recording, audio video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of these proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting on the City of Somerville website and local cable access government channels. Okay, moving on to our agenda for this evening. The first agenda up is we have some administrative items, and that would be the staff announcements.
Yes, so Chairperson Paul, I don't know if you want to take over to let people know that there's going to be a change in the board staff.
Okay. Yes, so the staff announcement, unfortunately, this will be my last meeting this evening, chairing this wonderful board. And so there will be a shift of the chair and the vice chair. So city staff and the other board members will look to make those changes before, or I assume before the next meeting. But it has been my honor and my pleasure to serve the city of Somerville over these last couple of years on this board, and I will miss everyone and thank you all. So, moving on from the staff announcement, all right, we will move to our condominium review board rules and updates.
So it was decided at the meeting in August that the revision of the condominium conversion rules, the staff of the housing division of the city of Somerville would review them and create a summary, which we did. These rules, or rather the revisions of them, were in the most part to offer clarity to the ordinance language, but also to update with the removal of the language that references the city's first right to purchase. So to streamline this summary, for each section of the rules that was revised, the housing staff created comments noting which text had been altered and highlighted said text according to whether it was new and revised. And you'll see that in the blue bold font, or if the original text was deleted, which is going to be in a bold red font.
I'm sorry, can I not to interrupt? Were you sharing your screen? Because if you were, we couldn't see. Sorry. Just wanted to make sure.
And I will get
Thank you.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Hold on for one moment. Let's see. And I will hit share screen. Okay, can you see that?
Nope.
It says you started sharing, but I'm not seeing anything on just yet.
Okay, I just got a message. My screen share is loading.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, it looks like.
There it is. There you go.
Yes, we can see now. Thank you.
So we can go through this step by step if Chairperson Paul agrees.
I think we decided to just go through the summary of the pieces that would have been most relevant to the application. So yes, if we want to just go through more of a summary versus every detailed change.
Okay. So in Article 1, under the application section, Section A, looks as though the original text for vacant units and the 12-month waiting period was reworded to the 12-month period, waiting period from the date of preliminary permit is granted before a final conversion permit can be granted for a vacant unit, unless that vacant unit is exempt from the waiting period. So it looks to me as though this text was just revised to be a little bit more readable. And there was added text, applicants who qualify for a waiver of the 1-year period under section 7-64. 1A will be granted a non-rental conversion permit rather than a rental conversion permit. And it looks as though in part 3, that the word rental unit was added. So that the sentence reads, a unit that is being used for short-term rental purposes shall be deemed a rental unit for condominium conversion purposes. So, going on to section B, there was text added for applying for conversion permit for occupied units. The text added was number 2, the application for conversion or rental unit must be filed and approved before any condominium conversion eviction is brought to recover possession of the unit. And number 3, the filing of a master deed with the registry of deeds prior to submission of a conversion application and before a tenant is afforded their right to purchase is in violation of the order. On page 4, there was text added along with the condominium conversion notification. The owner shall provide to each tenant at least 18 years or older, from which need to be completed by each tenant. Tenants should be given at least 10 days to complete those forms, or the representative for inclusion for the owner's application. They'll be returned to the representative for inclusion in the owner's application, and tenants are advised to provide a copy of completed forms to board staff. Then moving on, section C, application form. It looks as though there was an added text to number 2. For vacant units, looks like they updated the section to section 7-65. And they added an Article 9, Part C of the rules. Again, under the same section C application form, there was added text for the application shall be submitted by email to condoboard@somervillema.gov or by physical copy to City Hall Annex 50 Green Evergreen Ave. Moving down to section D, exhibits. There was added text. Number 4, any additional required affidavits described in the rules below, and the following documents are not required to be scheduled for initial hearing. However, they must be submitted in order to be scheduled for a final hearing. And those documents include a final version or substantially complete draft version of the master deed, a property condition report, and where a residential property is being demolished and or new or additional residential units being constructed, the owner shall notify the housing division of their intent to demolish and or construct new or additional residential units. The division staff shall issue a form acknowledging receipt of the notice, which shall be included in the owner's permit application.
I think so. Thank you for that. I think the rest of this is more informational, correct? Because I do want to note that this is a public document, so folks can go in and look at those small minor changes at their leisure. I think if I remember correctly, a lot of this, as you can see below, is like it looks like wording and board staff, and they changed the board staff. They did add some additional text, but I think the major pieces that affect the actual applications and or applications this evening, I think we went through in the top of the text, unless there is anything else on here that city staff feels relevant. I think that synopsis may have been great.
Oh, okay, thank you. Well, what my understanding, Chairperson Paul, is that the board will have to review this, the changes, the track changes that were made when Marina was still here, to determine if everything meets their requirements. And once that's ready, to let me know so that I can submit it to the website. Chairperson.
Okay, thank you. No, thank you. Just a couple of things came up in the chat. It looks like board member Brian had a question or the hand up, and then there's some things about the about hearing. It seems like you might be a little far away from the your microphone, so if you could just come into the microphone a little more. Yes, so just to give context, we had some sessions with Marina while Marina was here, and we actually went one by one through these changes with Marina. So the board members should already be versed on these changes. I think tonight was to give more of the general public an idea of some of these changes that were happening. So I think we're okay to, I don't think correct me if I'm wrong, are we voting to tell you tonight that these changes are acceptable by the board?
Well, my understanding from what Marina told me was that there were changes that were worked on to revise those rules. And once they were okayed, and she had sent the track changes document for everyone's review on the board, that they would be good to post to the website.
Okay, were these changes made after each of us had a chance to review these changes with Marina, do you know by chance, or were these?
No, those, forgive me, Chairperson Paul, those, my understanding from the last email that Marina had sent out prior to her leaving, she did say she wanted people to confirm that this was it, this was the last, the changes that were made in the track changes document that she shared with the board, that everybody had been able to contribute. So
Okay,
people do need to take, if anyone on the board is unsure, then they should take a look at those track changes that Marina sent. If they don't have a copy, they can certainly reach out to me and I'd like to send them a copy.
okay, so with that said, I guess there's no vote tonight. This was more or less to make folks aware of the update, but it looks like, just for the record, that possibly at your next meeting, you'll be, board members would need to be prepared to possibly vote on making sure these changes are acceptable. Sorry?
Oh.
Yeah, I thought that was actually what we decided last month, was that we would vote on it this month, that we would, that we had a chance to go through it ourselves, and then we were gonna check it out again, and then this month we would vote on it. So
Okay.
am I mistaken by that? We check.
Nope, I that's what I thought we were also doing, but I just
Yeah.
want to make sure that board members are comfortable with doing
Yeah.
that. Because I do remember, I thought that was also the consensus, only because I know we've had a chance. I know we received things by email, and we also had one-on-one meetings with Marina regarding the changes. So I was under the impression tonight was just more of also the general public give an update, and then we would vote. But I'm hearing that board member Brian is feeling comfortable. Board member Simeon, are you feeling comfortable, or do you need
I think
another
as you,
meeting?
I think as you said, we already discussed a few things, and then as you said today, it is the time for us to vote. But it's like I don't know if they are misunderstanding or how things work. I'm not sure, but I think we already reviewed a few things on the last meeting, and
Okay.
that's what we did.
Great. So it sounds like the consensus from the board is that we're okay to vote if city staff is okay with that tonight. It looks like we're okay to do that. So actually, but for the record, I realized I moved a little bit fast. I do apologize through the agenda that we did not do roll call. So before we do this vote, I know, right? So before we do this vote, if we could just hold on our vote for the condominium review board rules update, and if city staff could actually go back and do a roll call, and do our roll call attendance, please.
Very good. Thank you, Chairperson Paul. So this is roll call attendance for the September 25th, 2023 Condo Review Board meeting. Chair Paul,
Present.
Board Member Kate Byrne,
Present.
Board Member Alex Simeon.
Present.
Okay. We have a quorum.
Great. Thank you for that. So, all right, moving forward to back to the condo review board rules update, we will look to also do a roll call vote on these changes and updates to the ordinance, to the rules and the ordinance that was made. Yeah, I'll pass it to city staff for that vote.
So this is to take a vote to approve the changes that were made to the condo conversion rules. Chairperson Paul,
Yes.
Board Member Kate Byrne,
Yes.
Board Member Alex Simeon.
Yes.
The motion passes. The rules have been approved.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Okay. Moving up to our next agenda item tonight, that is of our new business. These are our applications for final slash courtesy permits. The first application up tonight is that of 28-30 Burnside Avenue. The application of 28 Burnside LLC. They're seeking a final conversion permits for unit number 28 and unit number 30. If there's a representative that can speak on this application, you now have the floor to do so.
Mr. Rebello, you're unmuted?
Hear me?
Yes,
Oh, finally. Good evening. How you doing?
very well.
Good in yourself. Thank you.
This is Felipe here. I'm representing myself as the builder for 28-30 Burnside Ave, and we are seeking for final conversion permit.
Great. Thank you. Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you. Okay, we'll now open up for the board commenting. If there's any board members that have any questions or comments for the representative on 28-30 Burnside Avenue.
No comment.
No questions.
Sorry, thank you. No comments here either. We will look to close the board commenting period, and we will now open up for public commenting period. If there's anyone in the audience that wants to speak solely on the application of that of 28-30 Burnside Avenue, you now have the floor to do so. Okay, there's no public comments or questions. We will now look to close the public commenting period, and we will now look to vote on the application of 28 Burnside Avenue. They're seeking a final conversion permit for unit 28 and unit 30.
This is a vote for preliminary rental conversion for unit 28 and preliminary non-rental conversion for unit 30 for 28-30 Burnside Avenue in Somerville. Chair Paul,
Yes.
Board Member Kate Byrne,
Yes.
Board Member Alex Simeon.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
Okay, just to make sure, this is for the
Sure.
final conversion, right?
Correct. I was actually just going to say that this is for a final conversion, not a preliminary. I thank you for catching that, because I did too as we were going through the vote.
Okay.
Forgive me, I'm sorry. Okay.
Great, thank you. Okay. Moving on to the next application, we have that of 9 Pearl Street Place. They're seeking a final conversion permit for unit number 1. And if there's a representative that wants to speak on this application, you now have the floor to do so.
Excuse me, Chairperson Paul.
Sorry.
Oh, that's quite all right. As you'll recall from last month's meeting, Jamin Song said that she was out of the country. She would not be here to represent her property, and
Yes, I remember. Thank you for that. Okay, as we did meet the representative last meeting for folks that were there. Unfortunately, the representative, for the record, did mention that they would be out of the country, but we will still move forward with the application at 9 Pearl Street Place. So we will now look to open up the board comments or questions. If there's any board members that have comments or questions on the application at 9 Pearl Street Place, now would be the time.
No question.
I wasn't sure if the master deed was finalized. That's the only question I had. I was, really happy that the tenants are gonna be able to buy these units. So, it just was that kind of little question mark over there.
Yeah, according to the document that I have, it says the master deed is included. Can city staff just confirm? Please, thank you.
It wasn't finalized. There were some things that the lawyer had asked questions about whether they wanted to do something different with different pieces of it, and about the pet policy and things like that. So I didn't see a finalized copy of it. I'm not sure that makes a big difference right here. But that was the question I had.
So are you asking the question on the master deed that was submitted? Is that what you're asking about?
Yeah, it was the master deed that I saw, so that there were, like I said, on the side, there were side comments from the lawyer asking did you want to change this? Did you want to change that? And I didn't see any changes, so I wasn't sure, if that made any difference, So I'm not opposed to this at all. I'm just asking the question about that.
No, that's a good question because does it matter if what is submitted to us? I guess that's a great question because I'm not really sure. I know they need to submit one to us, but I think if I remember correctly, it needs to be like more or less the stamped and date and all those different things. So I guess I need to look back and see, did it have those things? Because I thought it did. I don't know if there's relevance around a conversation around changing it to this, but I definitely would like to hear from city staff.
So it was my understanding, Chairperson Paul, that the one thing that was that had been submitted late after the deadline and therefore was not going to be considered last month was that there was a purchase and sale sign agreement that had been submitted too late, so we had missed the cutoff date. But once we would then move them to the September meeting. Now that was my understanding. I don't recall any conversations about a master deed.
Okay. And thank you, Board Member Brian. If you look in the chat, Mr. Filoni has put it in the chat that that's typically a matter for negotiation between a purchaser and an owner. So in our case, there seems to be no relevancy for us, as long as one is submitted within our ramifications.
Thank you for that clarification.
No, thank you for that question. Okay, if there are no other questions or comments from the board, we'll look to close the board commenting period, and we will now open public commenting period. If there is anyone in the audience that wants to speak solely on the application of 9 Pearl Street Place, you now have the floor to do so. Okay, if there's going no public comments or questions, we'll now look to close the public commenting period, and we will now look to vote on the final conversion permit for 9 Pearl Street Place, unit number 1.
Okay, so this is a vote for the final conversion permit for unit 2 at 9 Pearl Street. Chairperson Paul?
Sorry, just for clarification, is it unit 2 or unit 1? I thought it was.
I have
Unit
2, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, that's a typo, so
That's okay.
sorry. Okay,
2. Yep.
correct. Yes, for my vote. Sorry, for the record, yes.
Board Member Kate Byrne?
Yes.
Board Member Alex Simeon?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, the next application up tonight is that of 16 Woodbine Street. The application of 16 Woodbine LLC. They're seeking a final conversion permit for Unit 1 and Unit 2. If there's a representative that wants to speak on this application, you now have the floor.
Chairperson Paul, I just want to let you
Oh,
know that,
sorry.
the person representing this, will be Attorney James Mayer.
Okay, thank you.
Attorney Mayer, you are free to talk.
Hi, Attorney Jim Marr from Marr and Spang, representing 16 Woodbine LLC. This is an application for a final conversion permit and a final courtesy permit. I don't know if that distinction really matters at this point. So essentially 2 final conversion permits for units 1 and 2 at 16 Woodbine Street. The only things outstanding were the master deed and the structural engineer's report, which were submitted this month. And just looking to get a final permit tonight.
Great, thank you for that, Mr. Mayor. All right, moving on, we will now open up the board commenting period. If there's any board members that have any questions or comments for the representative for this application, I'll have the floor.
Oh, I of course have a question because it's my still not quite understanding how things work. So, so the preliminary permit was given last month and now we're coming in. And so, I didn't quite understand, even though I've been through all of the condo conversion, notes, I didn't quite understand how we got from last month from the preliminary permit to this month to the final. So if I could have a little clarification on that, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think I can provide that. So the only, there's no 1-year waiting period with this conversion application because unit 1 was owner occupied and unit 2 is a newly constructed unit. This was previously a single family house. So last month in obtaining the preliminary permit, the master deed and the structural engineer's report were not ready yet. So those are the only 2 outstanding items. So we went ahead and got the preliminary permits. And then now that those are prepared and in final form, we're applying for the final permits.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's exactly what I was going to say, that based on the original, there was no 1-year waiting permit. I mean,
Thank
no
you.
1-year waiting period. So when there is no 1-year waiting period, and obviously the courtesy permit, as long as they are able to get the remaining items in, then yes, they can move from preliminary to final.
Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you. All right. Any other questions, board comments or questions?
As soon as we have everything, and I think that's a go.
Great. Thank you for that. Okay, so we'll look to close the board commenting period, and we will look to open public commenting period. If there's anyone in the audience that wants to speak solely on the application of 16 Woodbine Street, you now have the floor. Okay, if there are no public comments or questions, we'll look to close the public commenting period, and we will now look to vote on the final conversion permit for unit number 1, the courtesy permit for unit number 2 at 16 Woodbine Street.
So this is a vote for the final conversion permits for unit 1 and unit 2 at 16 Woodbine Street. Chairperson Paul,
Yes.
Board Member Kate Byrne,
Yes.
Board Member Alex Simeon,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you, Chair Paul. Good luck.
Thank you.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next application tonight, and that is 19 Hanson Street. We have the application of 19 Hanson Street LLC. They're seeking a final conversion permit for unit number 1 and unit number 2. If there's a representative that wants to speak on this application, you have the floor.
Attorney Sheehan, you're unmuted.
Good evening, Mark Sheen of Adam Dash and Associates, attorney for 19 Hanson SSD LLC. My client is seeking a final conversion permit for units 1 and 2 of this multifamily residence. My client has submitted the remaining 2 items required by the board, which were a master deed and property condition report. So now the board has a complete application. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you for that, Mr. Sheehan. All right, we'll now look to open up the board commenting period. If there's any board members that have any questions or comments for this application.
No comment.
No comment.
Okay, no comment here either. All right, so we'll look to close the board commenting period and we will look to open up public commenting period. If there's anyone in the audience that wants to speak solely on the application of 19 Hanson Street, you now have the floor. Okay, if we don't have any public comments or questions, we'll look to close the public commenting period. And we will now look to vote on the final conversion permits for Unit 1 and Unit 2 at 19 Hanson Street.
Okay, this is a vote for final conversion permits for units 1 and unit 2 at 19 Hanson Street in Somerville. Chairperson Paul,
Yes.
Board Member Byrne,
Yes.
Board Member Simeon,
Yes.
the motion passes.
Thank you for that. Okay, coming up on our last application and our final permits, and that is 37-39 Governor Winthrop Road. The application of 37-39 LLC. They're seeking a final conversion permits for unit number 1 and unit number 2. If there's a representative that wants to speak on this application.
Mark Sheehan of Adam Dash and Associates, attorney for John D. Martinez. My client is seeking a final conversion permit for units 1 and 2 of this multifamily residence. My client has submitted the remaining 2 items required by the board, which were a master deed and property condition report. So now the board has a complete application. Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you for that, Mr. Sheehan. All right, I will look to open up the board commenting period. If there's any board members that have any questions or comments for this application.
Oh, I of course do have a question.
I do too, so I'll let you go.
So I know I asked this question before in the past, and so excuse me for coming back to it, but when the property goes into our system and then it is purchased by somebody else, it just continues on even though it doesn't have to go back to go, or does it just continue on? I was confused by that, and I know you have explained it to me before, but I wanted to ask that question.
So I had a similar question only because this is probably my second or third time seeing this happen, but not the reason I had a question. My question is more for city staff. Also, I know Ms. Davidson and Mr. Filoni are on the line, and so I've never seen it happen so fast. Normally, when it switches ownership, it's been a little bit of time, and so I actually have that same question because based on the notes and what I saw is that the previous owner had this application already in the midst, obviously, because we had already granted the preliminary. And so I guess I was also a little confused that the new owner was able to pick up the application and just move forward with the final conversion piece, which is that's something new for me. So if someone could also give a little clarity for that for myself too, because that is a question that I had too.
Is that question towards city staff or would you like?
Sorry,
me
that
to-
was for city staff. I see Mr. Flynn and Steve
Okay.
came off of mute. Or yeah, so city staff. Thank you.
So Chairperson.
Yes, this is Mike Filoni. It appears that my video is disabled.
Yes, for all of us. Yes, just so you
Thank
know, that's
you.
all of us across the board.
So excuse the delay, and the question occurred right as my trash barrel was being emptied by custodial staff, so I apologize. I just need to ask to hear the question again. They've
So-
finished in my space. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I think what the board, we were trying to get clarity is, I know for myself, this is probably like the second or third time for this, but I've never seen it at the final conversion part. So we were just want to get some clarity around the process of an application that has gone through the process and then technically is sold to someone else, and then they've kind of picked up the application. I know from board member Brian, I wanted a little more clarification, and for me, I just wanted to understand, because this one's different than the ones that I've experienced before, because they didn't happen at the final conversion piece. They usually happen in the preliminary. So if you could just give us some clarity around how this application was able to kind of, I guess, still continue through the process with a new purchaser owner.
Excuse me, I am not sufficiently familiar with
Okay.
the usual time frame so that I can really speak to why this would have been either inordinate, unusually fast, or to be happening at final permit rather than initial. So the board could ask the representative for the owner to speak to just or to somehow assure the board that they have complied with all the steps in the process. I can't speak
Okay.
to the question. I apologize.
No problem. Cecilia, do you have any board city staff, have any background for us on this application by chance, or no?
The only information that I have is that there was John D. Martinez did purchase the property in, July of 2023, but the former owner was Mystic Development LLC. That's about all the background information that I have.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Sheehan, could you talk to this a little bit? Like, I'm not sure. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure that you may have been talking with Marina for most of this. And as you know, Marina's on leave with us right now. So if you could just give us a little context and clarity on, I guess, the process and what kind of happened since the preliminary application.
Yeah, certainly. So Mystic Dev was a LLC, and John D. Martinez, they're all part of the ownership group. So we got the preliminary permit, and the remaining items that we had to satisfy were the property condition report and the master deed. We waited that 1 year notice period, and then about a month or two prior to that, John D. Martinez purchased the property. And based on my reading of the ordinance, John D. Martinez just steps into the shoes of the prior owner in terms of this condo conversion process. So again, we waited that 1 year period, and then we submitted the remaining two items. So based on my reading, we should be able to get that final permit tonight.
So if I'm understanding, this Mystic Development LLC was also owned by Mr. Martinez. Is that what I'm understanding?
No, it's he's works with them, and they're all contractors, and he purchased the project from them. But yeah, they transferred it over to him, and he just stepped into their shoes when it comes to this condo conversion process.
But at this point, what is the condo, rules? Because it's just a continuity of, the process. But is that the right things to do, or they should start it over? Because maybe we might miss a few other things. It's kind of confusing right now, but what the condo said, and I don't have the condo, in words in front of me right now. But do you have something you can help us on that?
Yes, so unfortunately, I'm drawing a blank on the ordinance. The representative did mention that they read through it, and so I don't know what section of the ordinance that that pertains to
Yeah,
directly.
can we share it
Um,
together and at least we can read it together and before we move on?
Here,
City
Paul,
staff be able.
it's Mike Filoni. I can perhaps offer one suggestion as a friendly alternative of sorts to Board Member Simeon's. I wouldn't recommend, and I think if council were on the call, they wouldn't recommend that, you know, we spend time trying to review the ordinance to confirm understanding of, you know, a somewhat nuanced manner. So I think the two options, as I see them to the board, are they could suggest a continuance, and Condo board staff at this time, at this time, Cecilia Kelly will follow up with the Housing Council to drill down on this issue. If the representative wants to go forward with a vote, presumably they could do that at, you know, at some risk of how the board may vote in the absence of clarity and confidence that it is fully compliant.
Thank you for that, Mr. Filoni. So I was also gonna agree. I was gonna say if we don't have time, for the sake of time, I was gonna say, and if we're just not in a place to review the ordinance, I was actually going to offer that, yes, is it possible if other board members wanted to have this tabled, to do that, but so hold on before I finish my statement. Board Member Brian, I see your hands raised.
Thank you, Chair Paul, and thank you, Mike. I would encourage us to hold off on a vote on this tonight. Because I think it's confusing and I think we need more information. So that would be, and if I was pushed to make a vote tonight, I would vote no. So would be in the interest of the folks to hold off.
Okay, yep, thank you for that feedback. Board Member Simeon, are you on board with
I
that?
have the
Because we
same feeling right here because some kind of you know, blank on that one, unless I have to go back and read the ordinance before I make decision on that. And then if you push it, guys, I will say no.
Okay. All right, so with that said, it looks like, so city staff, it looks like we're actually gonna be voting to table this until the next meeting. And with that condition is also if city staff could go back to the Housing Council and just drill in on the interpretation of the read of the transfer of ownership of these applications.
Okay, so this is a vote to table 37-39 Governor Winthrop Road, the application for Unit 1 and Unit 2, final conversion permit, to the October meeting. And in the interim liaison, Cecilia, will confer with Housing Council as to the proper reading of the ordinance with regards to transferring ownership. So Chairperson Paul?
Yes.
Board Member Byrne?
Yes.
Board Member Simeon?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. We will table this to the October meeting. And I will I will confer with Housing Council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our next agenda items tonight, and that is our preliminary condominium conversion permits. The first application up tonight is that of 12 Concord Avenue. The application of Leonardo Roberto seeking a preliminary non-rental conversion permits for unit number 1 and unit number 2. If there is a representative that wants to speak on this application, you now have the floor.
Ms. Vigorita, you are unmuted.
Thank you. Apologies. I think I have two items going, so I'm going to shut off one. Good evening. Thank you, Chairwoman Paul, rest of the Condo Review Board. Attorney Ann Vigorito, 424 Broadway, Somerville. here this evening regarding the applicant of 12 Concord Ave LLC. We are seeking a preliminary non-rental conversion permit for units 1 and 2. Before the board this evening is a completed application, pages 1 through 11, a paid fine or water bill with a receipt, a certificate of good standing from the city of Somerville, a quitclaim deed dated August 17th of 2022, affidavit of the prior owner, Virginia F. Marias, and proof of her residential exemption and voter roll records for 2022, and payment in the amount of $1,200. So this property was purchased vacant back on August 23rd of 2022. It's remained vacant continuously. Units 1 and 2 were previously occupied by the owners and their extended families. And you do have an affidavit that is signed by the former owner. It's in your packet from Virginia Marias. And that was dated back on in March of 2023. It's also notarized. So that being said, I would respectfully request two preliminary non-rental conversion permits. Say that very fast and it doesn't come out correctly sometimes. So thank you.
for that. No problem. Thank you, Attorney Margarita. Okay, so we'll look to open up the board commenting period. If there's any board members that have any questions or comments for this application.
Oh, here I go again. You know, I live around the block from this building. I'm curious, is there any requirement that the building and the demolition in the building happen before people come to the condo board? Because I know that that building has, you know, it is being reconstructed in our backyard. So I'm just curious. I'm curious about that. I don't know. I don't see it in the ordinance, and I don't, you know, so I would like an answer for that.
No, we don't require them not to, you know, they could purchase a home and just choose to renovate it without converting it to condos. So they have to come to us. We like them to come to us before they put them on the market. But there's nothing in the ordinance that says that they can't start renovating the property. We've had, I know since my tenure, my time here, I've had properties come up that were fully demolished and had been sold that way just because things had fallen through. But city staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we, you know, say that they can't start working on, you know, renovating the property. We just like them to not have already put it on the market. and also that's a zoning thing. So they'd have to get like permits and zoning and all different types of things to start the construction. So that would obviously also be in the system for us too. Attorney Vigora, did you raise your hand again or was that already there?
You're unmuted. Oh, oops.
Okay.
You are unmuted. Attorney Vigorito, you are unmuted.
Thank you. Chairwoman Paul, you got it right. But you know, there's no requirements because they would just be getting building permits, you know, as you described, like when they're doing renovations through the building department. There's no public comments regarding getting, unless you need zoning relief, like a special permit or some sort of variance. But I don't see that with this project, but that's generally why, you know, usually at the outset, we come before the board and, you know, get the removal permits, as you know, so that the project knows, you know, what it needs going forward.
Thank you for that, Attorney Vigo. And also, Board Member
Thank you.
Brown, I'll say, that's why you see the courtesy permits, because a lot of these single families end up adding a unit, which is then where the courtesy permit comes into, which is with the zoning, where they'll need that special permit to add another unit on. And so they usually come to us, obviously, to get those courtesy permits when they're adding an additional unit to like a single family home.
Thank you. Wouldn't that be nice if that, you know, if all the departments were connected to each other pretty well?
Agreed. Any other board comments or questions for the applicant?
No comment.
Thank you. Thank you for those questions, Board Member Brian. All right, so we'll look to close the board commenting period and we'll look to open up public commenting period. If there's anyone in the audience that wants to speak solely on the application of 12 Concord Avenue, you now have the floor. All right, if there are no public comments or questions, we'll look to close the public commenting period. And we will now look to vote for the preliminary non-rental conversion permits for unit number 1 and unit number 2 at 12 Concord Avenue.
Okay. This is a vote to approve the preliminary non-rental conversion permits for units 1 and 2 at 12 Concord Ave in Somerville. Chairperson Paul,
Yes.
Board Member Byrne,
Yes.
Board Member Simeon,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you, members of the Condo Review Board. Chairwoman Paul, good luck in your endeavors. It's been a pleasure, coming
Thank
before you
you.
these past several years. Take care. Good night, all.
Thank you. Okay, the next application up tonight is that of 16 Troll Street. The application of 16 Troll Street LLC, seeking a preliminary non-rental conversion permits for unit number 1 and unit number 2. If there's a representative that wants to speak on this application, you now have the floor.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
you're Unmuted.
Awesome. Good evening, board members. This is Attorney Doug Fernandez appearing on behalf of 16 Troll Street LLC. We are seeking a preliminary non-rental conversion permit for units 1 and 2 at 16 Troll Street in Somerville. Before you should have our completed application for both units. The first unit was owner occupied, I think dating back all the way until 1954. So you should have the owner affidavit confirming that. And you should also see within that affidavit that there have been no tenants in that unit outside of the family who owned it. Unit 2 was previously occupied by tenants who willingly chose to move out back in March 2023 and thus waived their rights to the property under the ordinance. You should find their completed tenant information sheets and affidavits within the application. And so I believe that you should have everything that you need from us in order to grant the permit.
Great, thank you for that. All right, so we'll look to open up the board commenting period. If there's any board members that have any questions or comments for the application.
I heard the attendance is March, right? March 23. Is that correct? That's what I heard? No?
The vacancy, it sounds like, yes,
Oh,
they
it's-
vacated the property, yes,
It's
in March
they
of 23.
On 20 March.
Yes, that's correct.
23.
So my question was just going to be around the tenancy. I'm reading some of the notes here. Thank you for the owner occupied unit number 1, but I just want to confirm to city staff that unit 2 is going to have the 1-year waiting period, correct? I just didn't see that on any of the documentation. I just wanted to make sure.
So forgive me, Chairperson Paul, you're saying unit 2 is subject to the 1 year?
Yes, I just wanted to confirm because on the cover page, it doesn't show that. And I just want to confirm that it should be.
I just want to join with you, Chairman Paul, and to say that I was concerned about that I didn't see that there was a tenant notification that went all the way through, so.
So you were questioning the tenant verification for unit 2?
Yeah.
Board Member Bryant? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was questioning the 1-year waiting period for the more for the record and the documentation. I'm okay with unit.
I agree.
Yeah, okay, because I'm okay with unit 1. That's the owner occupied unit, and I see that, but it was unit 2 that I just wanted for the record, mostly for the applicant also to know that there would be that 1-year waiting period on unit 2.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, I was concerned about unit two.
I will say that if you can still hear me, I don't know if I'm muted, but
Yes, we can
we
hear you.
were we were hoping that we could get that waiver for unit 2 as well. It was my understanding, forgive me, this is my first time appearing before the Somerville board, that if we got the tenant notifications and the tenant affidavits and the proper documents signed by the tenants, that we may be entitled to a waiver of that 1-year waiting period for that unit 2 as well. So I would just be looking for some clarification on that, just for our own understanding.
I'm not familiar with that piece of the ordinance.
Okay.
I'm sorry, so did you say your interpretation or reading of the ordinance, you read that you felt like if you had all that documentation in, you'd be entitled to receive the waiver? Is that based on the interpretation of the ordinance, or was this a conversation through email?
No, it wasn't a conversation. It was just based on our reading of the ordinance. I mean, you guys, the professionals, we could be wrong. We are willing to accept the 1-year waiting period. I just thought that maybe there was a way to get around that 1-year waiver had we submitted all of that tenant documentation. But if that's not correct, then we're willing to just accept that 1-year waiting period at this point.
Okay, yeah, so from my knowledge, there is supposed to be a waiting period on that unit. And we, I think city staff is looking into confirming that.
Well, it is my understanding that there is a 1-year waiting period, but again, as Attorney Fernandez stated, their interpretation was a little bit different. It could have been because when the tenants lived in unit 2, they were preparing to leave in March and had signed waivers, tenant waivers. And then I believe the property was purchased by a different owner. Is that correct, Attorney Fernandez? Am I remembering that right?
No, the property was only purchased by my client.
Okay, but wasn't it owned by another person? The owner was different?
Yeah. There was an owner in unit 1.
Yeah. That's what I thought. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Forgive me
No,
for
that's
misunderstanding.
That's okay.
Okay, so it sounds like based on city staff's confirmation and based on our knowledge, there will be a 1-year waiting period for unit number 2. So we just wanted to get that on the record because it just wasn't reflected in the documentation.
Okay. And
so
does
there
that
will
1-year
be that.
waiting period, that would begin as of today, or would that begin as of when my client purchased the property?
Nope, that would be as of today. We're making the vote today.
Gotcha. Okay. Understood.
Great. Is there, all right, so if there's any other board comments or questions on this application?
Well, I think this is something straightforward and 1-year period. I think that's how and where we can go, and then we just move on it since this is a primary thing. It's not a final one, and then I think the customer can stay and for 1 year, and that's a better deal we can go through today on that one.
I agree.
Thank you, Board Member Brand and Board Member Simeon. Okay, so we will now look to close the board commenting period, and we will now look to open up the public commenting period. If there's anyone in the audience that wants to speak solely on the application of 16 Charles Street, you now have the floor. Okay, if there's no public comment or questions, we'll now look to close the public commenting period. And we will now look to vote on the preliminary non-rental conversion permits for units number 1 and units number 2.
Okay, this is a vote for preliminary non-rental conversion permits. Unit 1 with Unit 2 having a 1-year waiting period for 16 Troll Street. Chairperson Paul,
Yes.
Board Member Byrne,
Yes.
Board Member Simeon,
Yes.
the motion is passed.
Thank you very much, board members.
Thank
Have a good
you.
night.
You
Bye.
too. All right, the next application in the final application for our preliminary condominium conversion permits is that of 54-56 Governor Winthrop Road. The application of 54-56 Governor Winthrop LLC. They're seeking a preliminary non-rental conversion permit for unit number 1 and unit number 2. If there's a representative that wants to speak on this application, you now have the floor.
Attorney Romano, you're unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, how are you? Kevin Romano from Romano Law in Newton. I'm representing Clubber Fiejo of 5456 Governor Winthrop LLC, seeking a preliminary non-rental conversion permit for units 1 and 2 at 5456 Governor Winthrop Road. This is a property that he bought vacant, signed a purchase and sale agreement. I think it was June or July of 2022 from an estate, and it was vacant at the time he bought it, and seeking to convert at this point.
Thank you for that. All right, we'll open up the board commenting period. If there's any board members that have any questions or comments for this application, I'm going to start off and just say, could you clarify again, the purchase of the property was between June and July of 2022. And at that time, you're saying it was purchased at that time vacant. So they've had the property for about a year now, a little bit over a year now.
Attorney Romano, you're unmuted.
Didn't realize I was muted again. Yeah, the purchase and sale agreement was signed in, he didn't have the date. It was either sometime in June or July. They were waiting on a license to sell, I believe, to record the deed, which took a couple of months, but yeah, it was under agreement in June or July of 22.
So what I have on my notes is that the purchase was finalized on 10/22. And I wanted to hear how long it was vacant and what happened to the tenants who were there before the purchase.
Yeah, it was vacant at the time he made his offer to purchase it in June. And the woman the deceased owner was, according to her probate records, was a tenant. But we don't have any further info on the other unit. I believe the owner's on the call as well, Clever Viejo. He may have a little more info on that.
Mr. Viejo, you are unmuted.
I also just want to give a little context that, in the ordinance, it does say if they've purchased the property and it has been vacant for at least a year. So I just want board members to keep that in mind, that, they purchased this in 10/22. So they've had it for about the year already. So just to keep that in mind.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, yes.
Yeah, that's Clever Feja. That's owner 5456 Governor Winthrop. And the property over there, that's a family member that's lived over there before. I think the owner of the property for almost 40 years, something like this. That's all family live there. And the owners passed away and the kids move out and decide to sell.
I just wanted to clarify, did you purchase directly from them? I heard the representative mention you
Yes,
purchased it from the state or you purchased it from the family?
direct for the family, because the owner, that's the mom that's the last one in life, that she's passed away. I think that's 2021.
Am I
Thank
still
you.
unmuted?
No, you're not. We can hear you. And Board
Yeah,
Member
okay.
Brian, do you have
According to
another
her
question?
probate records, the
Alright.
the prior owner, Sharon Cerrone, died April 9th, 2022.
April 9th, 2022, yes.
Yeah, and the purchase was completed from the personal representative of the estate. It was an estate sale.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear that. I thought what I saw was that the purchase was 10/22. Is that correct?
That's when the deed was recorded, correct? The date of death of the prior owner was April 9th, 2022.
Okay, okay. But there were still tenants in the building.
No tenants, that's all the family live over there. That's 3 daughters lived in the
Okay,
building.
okay. And so they were not tenants.
No tenants, no. That's a family.
Do we need some documentation about that, or is?
If they've had the property, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if they purchased it vacant and they've also had it for over a year.
Yep.
So in the ordinance is they've had the property in their possession vacant for a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of record, we're 2 weeks short of a year of record.
Oh, okay.
We would certainly be there by the time of any final permit being issued.
Okay, so they're 2 weeks shy of the 1 year. The ordinance says that they've had the property, I think, I don't know the exact words, but it's 1 year that they've had it. It wouldn't require. I guess the only thing that is that it would be the waiting period. We're 2 weeks shy of the 1 year marker. That means that they would have needed to provide the owner occupancy piece for the first unit, and then or the owner occupancy for everything, because they're saying it's all family. It was all family that was living in the unit, so they would have had to produce the affidavits for everyone. Yeah, I'm a little lost on this one. I don't know if city staff wants to, I didn't, I thought I heard June or July of 2022. So in my mind, I was like, okay, well, they've had it for the year. But now that they're saying they're 2 weeks shy of the year.
Actually,
the purchase and sale agreement-
it's a month shy of a year, but yeah.
A month? Well,
Yeah, it
he's-
was,
for
what
the
I
record.
saw was it was 10/22.
10/14 of 22.
So the exact date, they're saying the exact date is October 14th. Are you seeing the 14th? Or are you just saying the month of October 2022?
The deed was recorded on October 14th, 2022.
Okay.
Okay, but we still on September.
Okay, so
Less than a year.
what's being proposed. Yeah, so what's being proposed, and unfortunately, I won't be a part of this board at the next meeting, so I'm going to really let Board Member Brian and Board Member Simeon kind of, take that lead, and I'll vote whichever way. Is that if they're short of it, I'm with city staff on this one. Is that maybe they just come back next month?
Yeah.
And then if they come back next month, they'll have it for a year, and then none of that, it technically won't be applicable.
That is correct.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
If we submit the master deed and the what is the other one, the architect's engineering firm form in the interim, would that entitle us to a vote on a final, or is there a required period of time between a preliminary and a final?
I'm gonna be honest, based on my interpretation of the ordinance, and city staff, please confirm, if you come back within next month, which would be after the 10/14 date, so which means you did have the property for 1 year, So the waiting, like the unit statuses based on owner occupancy would be applicable.
Yep.
And if they could, and so there is no waiting, so technically there is no waiting period. Then if there is no waiting period, they, and correct me if I'm wrong, city staff, they would be able to, if they got the documentation, and be able to come before us for a final permit next month.
If I bought the property survey, I still have to wait for 1 year?
You don't, if you, so this is the thing, you don't have the, you're 2 weeks shy of the 1 year. So because of that, we would need the owner occupancy affidavits. We need that information. If you wait the
On
1
each-
year,
On each
then-
of them,
yes, each unit, well, the whole thing, if they're saying
The whole
that, if they're saying that the property was owner occupied and then also family was in it, then yes, they would need to produce owner occupancy affidavits for the whole property. If not, then we need to have prior tenant information. What we're doing is we're offering you to wait until next month, because based on the ordinance, you will have purchased the property and held it for 1 year vacant. So which removes some of those requirements. So if you
That-
wait a month,
That's
you know-
fair, and honestly, we're waiting till next month for the final anyways, because we don't have a finalized master deed or architect's opinion,
so yeah, so what
we're in the
I
same
would propose
position.
is you wait, exactly. So I would propose that you wait the 1 month, come back to the final, but I will say this, I would work with city staff in between that time to see if you can then come before for a final. If you have
Okay.
all the documentation, and if everything on the city staff ends meets, see if you'll be coming to the meeting for a preliminary, or see if you'll be coming to the meeting for a final.
Okay. All right, I'll get on that tomorrow.
Great. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up the board commenting period, and we are gonna move to the public commenting period. If there are anyone in the audience that wants to speak solely on this application of 54-56 Governor Winthrop Road, you now have the floor to do so. Okay, if there's no public commenting period, we will now look to close the public commenting period. And it looks like we will actually be voting to table this application until the next meeting in October. And in the interim, the applicant and city staff will work to see if the application will be coming before the board as a preliminary and or a final conversion permit.
This is a vote for preliminary. Sorry, forgive me. This is a vote to table the application to October 2023. In the interim, the applicant will work with city staff to determine whether they will come before the board in October for a preliminary non-rental conversion permit for units 1 and 2, or if it will be for a final, which is conditional on having the additional documents required for a final permit. Chairperson Paul,
Yes.
Board Member Byrne,
Yes,
Board Member Simeon.
Yes.
Okay, the motion is passed.
Great, thank you very much. And on that note, I just want to say once again, thank you all for allowing me to serve the city of Somerville and all the great residents of the city. And I wish you all the best of luck, and I call this meeting adjourned. Oh, and Kate, sorry.
I just have to keep talking. Did we vote on last month's agenda notes? So I wondered if we needed to cover that.
Thank you for that. Before we call the meeting adjourned, did we vote on the rules? I know we went back and we did roll call.
Yeah.
City staff, can you just confirm that we did vote on the rules?
We did, Chairperson.
We did.
No,
Thank you.
not the rules, but
sorry.
the notes from last month's meeting, the agenda.
It's referring to the
The
meeting minutes.
meeting minutes.
Yeah,
Those are not, that was not on the agenda, so I'm assuming they
Okay.
haven't been reviewed yet. So the meeting minutes get reviewed, and then once they're reviewed, they end up on the agenda after internal city staff have had a chance to review
I
them,
thought-
and then they come up on the agenda for us
I
to
thought they
vote
were on
them.
the agenda. I thought they were on the agenda, but
oh,
you know,
no, I don't-
before you go, Chair Paul, I just want to say how tremendous you have been in this position and how you've helped me so much as a new member and allowed me to continue to ask crazy questions all the time. And I really,
My
really have
pleasure.
appreciated you, and I am gonna miss you tremendously.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, and I know the board is in great
But
hands.
I
with that.
don't realize that this is your last one.
Yes, yes. Sorry,
Until
Roberta.
oh, come on. You will be missing here.
Thank you very, very much. And thank you all for
Yeah.
your kind words. And yes, I appreciate you all. All right. And with that, I call this meeting adjourned. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Great. Thank you, Cecilia, Mike, Lisa. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all. And I'm pretty sure this is not the last time we will be in each other's space. So thank you all so
Hope
much
not.
for everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you
night,
very
everyone.
much. Thank
Thank
you.
you all.
Bye-bye.
Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.